Welcome to the RYSA 2020 Multi-Tiered Systems of Support, or MTSS Tier 1 All Staff Training Module. The objectives for this module are stated in a staff will be able to, or SWBAT format. The objectives are as follows. Staff will be able to describe what a multi-tiered system of support is and how it helps us create a trauma-informed, culturally responsive, linguistically supportive RYSA culture and climate. Staff will be able to identify the RYSA 2020 Tier 1 MTSS systems and supports and what role they individually play in implementing each support. And staff will be able to apply key concepts and knowledge of the MTSS Tier 1 systems and supports to ensure that all RYSA 2020 students are supported and learning. First, let's begin by grounding ourselves in our purpose. First, let's consider the three informing mindsets of the RYSA program: culturally responsive education, trauma-informed education, and linguistically supportive education for multilingual learners. Together, these complete the foundation of the RYSA culture and climate. In this module today, we will talk about how we implement these with fidelity and efficacy via the multi-tiered systems of support. So what is the RYSA 2020 MTSS? A multi-tiered system of support, or MTSS, is the leading approach to systematically supporting students. Levels of support are conceptualized in terms of three levels, or three tiers. Consider the pyramid graphic on the screen. This graphic shows the three levels, or tiers, of support at RYSA 2020. This module will focus on the base of this pyramid, or Tier 1, also sometimes referred to as our universal supports. As the name would suggest, Tier 1 represents all of the ways that RYSA staff support all students all the time. This is considered our baseline level of support. If all staff implement these universal Tier 1 supports with fidelity and efficacy, we anticipate that between 80 to 90% of our RYSA students will demonstrate that they are successful at this level of support. What success might look like minor risk behaviors included. In a virtual, remote context, this might include occasional failure to log into class on time or submit an occasional assignment late or missing. This could also include occasional reluctance to engage or participate in a remote context. When all staff working with students are implementing Tier 1 universal strategies and systems and supports with fidelity and efficacy, and a student is demonstrating that they are still requiring more support to be successful, we add on an additional layer of support, a targeted layer of support that we refer to as Tier 2. Notice that where Tier 1 universal supports are provided primarily by classroom teaching staff, Tier 2 supports have an additional role where the student support team and student support interns play a role in additionally supporting students at Tier 2. Some indicators that a student may benefit from Tier 2 or targeted level of support are when students are demonstrating moderate risk behaviors, even when all of Tier 1 or universal levels of supports are being upheld with efficacy and fidelity. In a remote context, some of examples of this might include persistent failure to log in on time to class, or very many missing assignments and demonstration that that student is not successful or not understanding that particular system yet, despite many attempts from classroom staff to support that student at a universal level. At RYSA, we anticipate that up to 15% of our students will require this targeted or Tier 2 level of support, in addition to the universal supports provided by classroom staff in Tier 1. In the event that all Tier 1 and Tier 2 supports are being offered with efficacy and fidelity, and the student is still demonstrating that they are not successful at that level of support, we also can offer an intensive or Tier 3 level of support for that student and or family. Some indications that a student may require an intensive level of support might look like some high-risk behaviors. This could look like suicidal ideation, or reports of aggression or violence in the home. And notice that the admin staff, in addition to the student support team interns and classroom staff, are all involved when an intensive Tier 3 level of support is determined to be necessary. So what are some of the biggest benefits of using a multi-tiered system of support? Some benefits include improving learning opportunities, keeping data at the center of the discussion around student needs, no student being able to fall through the cracks, getting students the right intervention at the right time, recognizing the needs of the whole child, and in our case, the family as well, closing the achievement gap, being able to meet the needs of all students, and providing supports to students before a problem escalates. So now together, let's dig in to RYSA 2020's MTSS Tier 1 or Universal Systems and Supports. In this module, we are learning about the universal or Tier 1 supports at RYSA 2020. Arguably, these are the most important types of supports at RYSA. If we create a strong, robust foundation to our pyramid, it will decrease the likelihood that students will require targeted or intensive Tier 2 or Tier 3 supports moving forward. To help us learn about RYSA 2020's Tier 1 supports, we will utilize a document called RYSA 2020's Remote MTSS Seed Matrix. MTSS, as you know, stands for Multi-Tiered Systems of Support, and SEED stands for Social Emotional Asset Development. You can find this document linked in the description below. This document is organized in columns as follows. To the left, we will note the tier in reference. Next, the antecedent behavior the student might be demonstrating that might cue that a certain support or strategy is necessary and supportive. Third, the name of the strategy. In the fourth column, roles and responsibilities as delineated by particular RYSA roles. In the fifth column, a description of the strategy. And to the right, which school readiness asset aligns with that strategy best. To begin, the tier for all of the following strategies and supports is Tier 1. In the upper left-hand corner of the table on the screen, note that where it says antecedent behaviors, it says NA for not applicable. This is because Tier 1 or universal supports are applied by all teaching staff all the time for all students and do not follow a particular behavior in question or are not used as an intervention. It goes on to say that all Tier 1 strategies together establish the foundation of the RYSA culture and climate and support all school readiness assets. Our first Tier 1 support is our annual RYSA theme. This support is upheld by all staff, and the roles are very similar between all staff members. The theme is a 4 to 5 letter word, which articulates RYSA's core values. The annual theme informs a RYSA chant, which is sung throughout the academy to help students internalize a sense of community. The annual theme also informs each class's chosen name and their individual class chant. The theme of RYSA this year is Unite. Unite is an acronym that stands for our core values: uplifting, neighborly, innovative, tenacity, and empathy. Unite. The annual theme is an MTSS Tier 1 strategy or support that we feel aligns with all of the following school readiness assets: positive attitude towards school, internalization of United States school culture, motivation to achieve, confidence in an academic setting, positive support networks, and coping skills. The second Tier 1 support this year is a virtual classroom matrix of expectations. Academic lead teachers, arts lead teachers, and classroom culture lead teachers teach the virtual classroom matrix of expectations explicitly to students. Peer mentors prompt and reinforce the virtual classroom matrix of expectations. At a typical live format academy, the RYSA core values are embodied in all spaces of the academy. Each space has corresponding posted signage articulating exactly how students are expected to demonstrate each core value in that area. At RYSA 2020, because of our remote context, we have limited this to only including the classroom matrix of expectations. A small digital icon representing this matrix of expectations will be provided to classroom teaching staff in order for them to integrate this signage into their virtual Bitmoji classrooms on a daily basis. We feel that this MTSS Tier 1 strategy aligns best to the school readiness asset of internalization of United States school culture. The next Tier 1 or universal support at RYSA 2020 are class dojo points. Academic lead teachers, arts lead teachers, and classroom culture lead teachers award class dojo points to students. Peer mentors prompt and reinforce students to be incentivized by class dojo points. Class dojo points are an online positive reinforcement tool to support RYSA staff in rewarding students as they demonstrate RYSA core values. We feel that this best aligns to the internalization of United States school culture and motivation to achieve. Here you can see an overview of what a class dojo classroom might look like, where each student is represented as a little monster, and you can select any student or your whole class to award a class dojo point to as a lead teaching role at RYSA. Each of our core values will come preloaded as options to award class dojo points at RYSA 2020. Awarding class dojo points consistently is important at RYSA for all lead teachers. This brings us to our next Tier 1 universal support at RYSA, our community event. For each weekly community event that takes place at the end of the day on Friday afternoons, classroom culture lead teachers will nominate their class's weekly community event winning student. This is based on who are the top earners for the class dojo points that week. Administration will then select the weekly winning class. Each Friday of the Academy, all students and staff will gather at the community event, which is both a showcase and an award ceremony. The award ceremony honors the one top class dojo point earner from each classroom that week, as well as the class with the highest weekly total of class dojo points cumulatively. Each winning student receives a gift certificate, a photograph, and a positive home contact. We feel this best aligns with internalization of United States school culture and motivation to achieve. Next up, an additional Tier 1 support at RYSA is that all students receive social emotional learning class 2 times each week in the afternoons. The social emotional learning teacher teaches the social emotional learning class. The classroom culture lead teacher supports this class, and peer mentors model effective participation. All students at RYSA receive 12 one-hour or 1/2 hour social emotional learning classes twice weekly at the Academy. The school readiness asset we feel this best aligns to is coping skills. Distinct from the Friday afternoon whole school community event, community meetings are also a Tier 1 support at RYSA. For community meetings, the classroom culture lead teacher leads community meetings 2 to 3 times daily. Community meetings may include mindfulness exercises, Go Noodle activities, goal setting and reflection exercises, or circle community building discussion. Peer mentors model effective participation in all community meetings. All students at RYSA receive 2 to 3 30-minute mindfulness sessions per day at the Academy in the context of the community meetings. Mindfulness may include a meditative breathing exercise, yoga, a brain-building game, a community circle, or teaching and practicing self-regulation strategies like the peace cards, or using modalities like the ooze tube or visual sand timer. We feel that community meetings best align to cultivating the school readiness assets of coping skills and also positive support networks. The next Tier 1 support is a virtual classroom design. The academic lead teacher, arts lead teacher, and classroom culture lead teacher, also the SEL lead teacher and digital literacy teachers, each design a virtual classroom space and update their virtual classrooms daily. The virtual classroom is posted daily at the top of each class's Google Classroom stream, so it's easy for the students to locate and acts as their hub to connect them to their daily learning. We did provide guidance about how to set up a trauma-informed Tier 1 supportive classroom design space in an in-person live RYSA, but for a remote context, we've made a couple small adjustments. However, it is worth noting that each virtual classroom should still include and promote affirming visual representations of students' identity, home culture, and learnings throughout the Academy, in addition to updated daily live links to instructional tasks and learning materials. We feel this best aligns to the school readiness assets of positive attitude towards school, motivation to achieve, and coping skills. Here is an example of my virtual classroom that I updated on the 19th of June. Next up, we have a Tier 1 support that is explicitly designed to help students learn the school readiness asset of positive coping skills. This strategy is called PACE cards. PACE cards are a modality that illustrate positive coping strategies and help students self-regulate in order to return to on-task behavior or emotional peace. Students practice these coping strategies for defined periods of time in order to return to class activity and or emotional peace as quickly as possible. The classroom culture lead teacher explicitly teaches these, as well as the academic lead teacher and the social emotional lead teacher. The peer mentor can support or help administer a PACE card in the event that a student becomes emotionally dysregulated during instruction at RYSA. Additionally, we are sending the PACE cards physically home in students' learning kits who are enrolled in RYSA 2020. This means that students can practice using their PACE cards if they become emotionally unregulated at home. Our next Tier 1 support are giving precise and effective directions. The academic lead teacher, arts lead teacher, and classroom culture lead teacher give precise and effective directions to students at RYSA. Peer mentors model effectively following those directions, and they reinforce following those directions for students. A precisely given direction in a remote learning context must be stated verbally, written directions visibly for students, and modeled directions and process whenever possible. Check for understanding of directions before releasing students to complete their task is also best practice. We feel this aligns best with the school readiness assets of internalization of school culture and confidence in an academic setting. Our last Tier 1 or universal support at RYSA 2020 is our Class Dojo classroom order. Sharing the Class Dojo classroom view of all students, classroom culture lead teachers, academic lead teachers, and arts lead teachers can call on students and ritualize students asking and answering questions of each other, for example, during morning attendance routine, in the alphabetical order that is presented on their class dojo. Consistent with trauma-informed education, every class utilizes the alphabetical class order shown on Class Dojo to maximize efficiency of calling on students and asking students to engage in rituals wherein they ask and answer questions of each other. This predictability is key and essential for trauma-informed education. We feel this best aligns with the internalization of school culture and confidence in an academic setting. Here is an example of how that Class Dojo class order might look. In this example, let's imagine that you are prompting the routine of students asking and answering each other a question of the day in order to take morning attendance. In the beginning of RYSA, you can begin with the student in the top upper left-hand corner and teach students to utilize the order as presented alphabetically in this visual view on Class Dojo. Once the student gets to the end of the line, they can practice using the sweep and return to complete until all students in the order have been called upon. Later in the academy, you can begin to add a challenge to this, and you can begin your class order at any location with any student you prefer. They will then complete the order as they have practiced, and when you get to the end, head back up to the beginning and complete until all students have been called upon. Additionally, the random feature in the center bottom of the Class Dojo classroom view allows students to be selected at random. It's a fun feature and it allows students to be called upon in a randomized fashion without feeling picked on by their teachers. Last but not least, the Tier 1 strategy of weekly progress and wellness checks. In this strategy, classroom culture lead teachers send home a progress report for each of their students in their class via email each week, and then call every family in their class one time a week to discuss that student's progress report and to conduct a general wellness check / needs assessment for that family. The classroom culture lead teacher then logs this information into a school-wide spreadsheet and flags any concerns or follow-up action items for a member of the student support intern team to follow up with. Consistent with trauma-informed education, each family can feel strongly tethered to the RYSA community through this support and materially supported as well via this personalized connection each week. We feel this best aligns to the school readiness asset of creating positive support networks. Now, let's close and check for your understanding of this module. As a reminder, the objectives of this module were that staff will be able to describe what a multi-tiered system of support is and how it helps us create a trauma-informed, culturally responsive, linguistically supportive RYSA culture and climate. Staff will be able to identify the RYSA 2020 Tier 1 MTSS systems and supports and what role they play in implementing each support. And staff will be able to apply key concepts and knowledge of the MTSS Tier 1 systems and supports to ensure that all RYSA 2020 students are supported and learning. Check. Now here are your instructions to check for understanding of this module. Leave a comment below this video. In your comment, please complete the following 3 sentence frames below. First, I am most excited to implement the RYSA 2020 MTSS Tier 1 strategy of, insert your strategy to complete that sentence frame. The next sentence you will write will complete the following sentence frame. The school readiness asset or assets that this strategy best aligns to is or are, insert school readiness assets to complete that sentence. The next sentence frame you will complete in your comment below, my role in implementing this blank. Insert a description of your role here in your own words. Last, please respond to at least one of your colleagues' comments. This has been the RYSA 2020 Multi-Tiered Systems of Support, or MTSS, Tier 1 training module for all staff.